This is my manifesto. One day, the world will no longer discriminate against feminine men and masculine women when rape is defined and everyone understands its definition, especially law and in feminist theory, where the differences in race, class, and gender and sexualities are not as large and don't matter to anyone anymore. In feminist theory, intersectionality is broken down into two parts. Structural intersectionality is when class, race, gender intertwine and create obstacles for those who identify in more than one of these separate categories, whether it be of two races, like Anzaldúa and Lord, both identify in separate categories but also identify as women. Political intersectionalities are where women are from two separate groups, which means that they have two different political agendas, such as I would have a different political agenda than someone who was a lesbian of color, because I would see the world differently than she would see the world. I see a white male differently than she would see a white male. And the differences in power between both of our groups and our own minds is huge. And so therefore, the priorities that I have would be different than her priorities, which should not be. Hoping that one day these intersectionalities don't exist, and that everyone can work together, even with the differences that we have. Most feminists agree that gender is constructed by society. Gender and sexuality are supposed to be normal. You're supposed to be male or female, and you're supposed to just be straight. There are many variations of these categories and concepts, therefore they should be treated as such. The expected is that when a female says she is taken, it usually means that is by a male. And most people think that when someone is born with male genitalia that they're going to grow up to be a man. And some of these people don't understand that babies can be born with male genitalia but grow up with the mind of a female. And they don't understand the whole concept of that, which is why people need to be educated on this, especially through feminist theory. Because feminist theory tries to tear down these barriers and let people know that there is much more to a person than if they are gay, straight, bisexual, male, female, transgendered, and so on. Hopefully, feminist theory builds up much more throughout the world, and these differences won't seem to make a difference to anyone anymore. Speaking of differences and not making a difference to anyone anymore, the differences between the erotic in life for women and the erotic in pornography. And they should not be defined as such as separately. The defining of the difference just confuses people, and it makes it seem that the erotic is not something that women can use to strengthen themselves as a life source, things like that. Even the word erotic has such a stigma stuck to it as being something raunchy in pornography, rather than the connection between the emotions of a person, the person's self-image, and the connection between the world around them and such. One day, the world will be equal between everyone if people just listen to each other, break down those barriers that have been built, and break down some of the traditions that were made a long time ago. This is 2012. People need to understand that things are not the same as when the Bible was written, or even earlier in the 19th century. The world would be a much friendlier place to everyone of every different race, different culture, different gender and sexualities, and so on. And that is what I hope for through my manifesto.